Hi, we're doing another reading vlog today. I actually have a bit of a backstory for this one. So basically, ever since we moved, I feel like I've had a bad time kind of like remembering what the books I physically own are, not books that are on my physical TBR, because everything's still packed away in boxes for most of it, not everything. So I decided a couple of days ago that I would just go through all of those boxes because my TBR is separated from my red books. I was that smart while packing before moving, but because of that I decided to go through the boxes that have my TBR in them and kind of like went through them and like write down every single book in a list. And then something I've also been missing is a TBR jar, because I don't know, it's something I've always had and I just haven't since we moved. And I thought something that would be easier to upkeep is a picker reel online, because this is so much easier to like edit through than like something physical. And this way I also won't have to like worry if my container gets too small for the amount of books that are in there. So what we're doing today is I'm gonna let this wheel pick my next couple of reads until I get a 5-star. Yes, this is not until I get a 5-star vlog. Am I gonna regret this? Maybe, but we'll see. So basically this wheel has every single book that I own that I haven't read yet on it. So that also means that it has sequels on here to books that I have not read yet, because I own some sequels to books that I have not read yet, or I own an entire series so I've only read one book. So if I land on one of those, I will just read the next books in the series that I'm supposed to read, you know? So yeah, that's what we're gonna do. I'm really nervous because this is just completely up to fate, and there's some books that I really don't want to read right now, just because they're like really chunky or just really intimidating, something I'm not in the mood for right now. So we'll just see how this goes. The one thing I'm kind of hoping for is that this won't force me to start the House of Night series, because I own an entire series. I got it secondhand really cheap last year, and it's a long series, so chances are high that I will land on one of those books. But I really don't want to start that series right now. So I currently have 114 books on the wheel. That's a lot. But to be fair, I've read like almost 130 books so far this year, so if all of those books came off my physical TBR, I would have none. So that isn't that bad. I have that many on my physical TBR. But yeah, I definitely expected them to be way more. But yeah, anyway, I'm gonna spin this and I'm very nervous, and then we're gonna see together what I'm gonna have to read. I hope this will work. Okay, 1, 2, 3. Hates. That's a sequel though to a book I haven't read, but exciting news because I've been meaning to read this book for so long. Okay, so the spinner wheel landed on Daisy Hates by Jessa Hastings, which is the second book in the Magnolia Parks universe. And like I just said, I haven't read this first book yet, so I'm gonna be reading this. I'm just gonna be reading this, and then after I finished it, if it's not a 5-star, we'll be spinning again. And I'm so excited to read this. Like, I have been so excited to read this ever since I first bought it, but I didn't get around to it, and I'm just this is what I wanted the spinner wheel to pick. Books that I've been desperate to read and just haven't gotten a chance to. So excited. Hi, how are you doing? So I have finished Magnolia Parks by Jessa Hastings, and this was not a 5-star, it was a 3, which is a little bit disappointing because I wasn't fully expecting this to be a 5, but I was expecting this to be a 4, and it was not. But yeah, this is very high drama, very melodramatic. If that's not your thing, don't read this. The main relationship in this one between BJ and Magnolia is extremely toxic, which it was just a little bit too much for me. I feel like I've read a lot of books and I've seen a lot of movies and TV shows where like the main couple isn't healthy, is very dysfunctional, toxic even, but you know, it's still entertaining to watch or to read. BJ and Magnolia crossed that line several times where it just wasn't entertaining anymore for me, and it just makes me think like, girl, run, because especially BJ is just a trash of a human being, and I hated him so incredibly much by the end of this book that I really wonder how Jessa Hastings is gonna redeem him in some factor, because he is gonna show up again, and I'm assuming he and Magnolia do end up together in some way, but it's gonna take a lot of effort. it's not like I like Magnolia, but I do feel like she is the type of character that works for this book. Where yeah, she's unlikable, she's a shitty human being, she's very self-centered, doesn't really care about the people around her, only about her. She is not self-aware at all about the issues she has, and like constantly just makes the wrong decisions, but she is still an entertaining character to read from. But BJ is just scum of the earth. Like, I don't know how to explain this to you without spoiling, but I could go on an entire rant about how much I hate BJ. But I do think that for the most time, I had a fun time reading this book, and I do love the larger cast of characters in this world as well. So I'm very excited to read Daisy Hates, which is the sequel, which follows Daisy and Christian, who have showed up a little in here, and I'm very excited to read their story. That is all the list. We are adding a book to the list because I bought this book, Chemie by Hetty, Helsmoortel, yesterday. So it's on my physical TBR, so it has a fair shot. I'm quickly gonna shuffle everything that's on the wheel, so now they're in different order. Let's spin the wheel, and I'm so fucking nervous. I don't even want to look at it. Oh, who would have thought this was a good idea? The fiery heart? Oh god, this is not bad. Okay, it's not at all what I would have ever chosen for myself. But the fiery heart is, if I put the books in the correct order, the second to last book in the Bloodline series, and I've only read book 1, so that means we're switching out sequels again. It means I'm reading The Golden Lily by Richelle Mead, which is the second book, and it's also on my top 23 to read in 2023. No, not 23, there were not 23 books in there, but like my top books to read in 2023. I've been putting this off because I did not like Bloodlines. And Bloodlines is a spin-off series to the Vampire Academy series by Richelle Mead, and I love Vampire Academy. And two of my favorite side characters in that series are like the main character and the love interest in this series. So I was so hyped to give it a read, but then I didn't like Bloodlines, and I just have been dragging my feet on continuing on with the series. But it was one of my goals for this year to continue, maybe finish it even. And I have been in a vampire mood recently, and I'm tentatively excited to read this. Hi, so I have finished The Golden Lily, and I'm so glad that this video forced me to read this, because even though this wasn't a 5-star, I am like really invested in this series now. This was a 4-star for me, but the first book in the series, Bloodlines, was a 3-star, I believe, and I just felt a bit bored by it. I wasn't connecting to it, and I was scared that I wasn't gonna like it nearly as much as I did the Vampire Academy series, which I adored, and I did it still not at the same level, but I am highly invested now, and I'm like on that addicting mood that I had with the Vampire Academy series, and I'm like wanting to dive into the next book, but that won't be the case. I'm still not the biggest fan of Sydney. I think she can be really dense at times, which is annoying because she is played off as like this really smart, hyper intelligent character, and at times she's just plain old stupid and you just want to scream at her for not seeing things. And then also there's some discussions around race and dieting in here that just sat really uncomfortable for me, and I didn't really like the way it was done throughout the book. Now it does kind of start to get challenged by the end of this, which makes me hopeful that it will disappear in the rest of the series. But definitely like the plot that was introduced in this one, I really liked, and I'm much more invested in than the plot of the first book, and I'm excited to see it all kind of play out over the rest of the series. And also I love Adrian. I've always loved Adrian. He's always been my favorite, and I can't say much without spoiling anything, but him in this book is my life. So that means we have to spin the wheel yet again, which also means I have to look for the Golden Lily and get it out of the list. Okay, let's spin. I don't want to look. I'm too scared to look. The odds are bad of this being something I actually want to read right now. Fuck. Okay. You know what? This has been on my TBR forever, so let's just do it. If you asked me at the start of this video if this was a book I was willing to read for it, I would have said no. Because I have been wanting to read this for ages, and I finally got myself a copy of it in 2019. So I've owned this book for 4 years now. Oh shit, and I have not read it. And I know this is supposed to be like the best entry point for Brandon Sanderson, and it's supposed to be like a not that difficult read and a great entrance for like epic high adult fantasy as well. But I'm so scared to read this book. I do a little update to the vlog because I got like a chapter into the Final Empire. So I read like the little prologue and like the first chapter. And then I got sick, but this book down a little. And now I was gonna try and continue reading it. And just my brain is still not in the capacity to read a high fantasy like this. So I'm gonna cheat a little and I'm gonna put this down, forget we did this, and going to spin again. If you don't mind. If you do mind, I'm still gonna do it. Just click out of this video. But my brain just absolutely can't do it right now. I'm so sorry. So now I'm hoping that if I'm gonna spin again, which I am, I'm not gonna get a high fantasy again because that would be ridiculous. Let's spin. I feel like they're so high stakes because I don't want adult fantasy. Not that I own that many, but like still. Oh, I need to read the second. Okay. Reading a graphic novel. Yes, we're doing that. I'm just kind of thinking where they are in the hallway. The spinner wheel has decided that I'll be reading Monster Volume 3. Now, technically, I have read Volume 2, but I don't remember anything about this, so I wanted to reread this before continuing on with the series. So I am gonna exchange this with Volume 2 instead. I don't think upon first read this was a 5-star, so who knows if it will be now. And yes, this is an adult fantasy, but it's a graphic novel, so I'm hoping things will be fine. But this is good because I push off reading the series all the time. I just checked my Goodreads review for this volume, and originally I gave it a 4-star. I think I'm gonna knock it down to a 3, just because even though I enjoyed this and I do think this expands on the world, answers some questions, gives us kind of more a clear direction that we're going in, I still don't feel like I actually have a grasp on this world, and therefore I find it hard to like get really invested in this because I'm constantly just asking myself questions, trying to figure things out. But yeah, the art in this is absolutely stunning. Like, this is not a great page, but I don't want to like give you any spoilers, but like the art is stunning. Like, just the cover art is exactly in the style of the rest of the novel. And yeah, I'm excited to continue on with the series, but this was a 3-star, which means we're spinning again. Let's spin the wheel and hope for the best, because I'm gonna die. Okay, that's a book of my top of TBR list, so we're getting at least through that. The Geknipte Genen is a non-fiction novel about DNA, and yeah, it's short. It's on my top of TBR list. It's by Hetty, Helsmoortel, so it's in Dutch. And yeah, I am excited to read this. This is on my top of TBR list, and I don't think I would have actually pushed myself to get to this if it didn't show up in here. So it's a win. Hi, so I finished the Geknipte Genen by Hetty, Helsmoortel. I was a 4-star. I am sorry that this is not a 5-star. I don't know what I'm doing. I'm feeling cursed because I'm just doing this for the physical books that I'm reading, like all of my physical TBR, but at the same time, while filming this video, I'm still reading like library books and like ebooks and stuff, and I haven't had a 5-star since starting this video, so I feel cursed. But this was a 4-star, and I'm really glad I finally got to read it. I've owned it for quite some time now. I've owned it for just over a year, and it was on the top of my TBR list for this year, so I'm glad I got around to it. I definitely needed to push because this was one of the books on that list that I put on there. I was kind of like a extra push because I was intimidated by them, so that's great that that's done. But basically, well, this book is officially split up in 5 parts, but for me and my reading experience, it kind of is more so divided in 2 parts. This is part 1, this is part 2. And part 1, we just basically explain what DNA is and how CRISPR, I think that's how you pronounce it, works, and like basically explaining the basics of these things. And that part just was not it for me. Like, it wasn't badly written. I did still understand it, and as someone who didn't know about some of these concepts and also just like hasn't learned about these concepts in a while, I appreciated that part of the book. But I find myself zoning out sometimes and it just being a bit difficult to understand at points. But then the second half I flew through and I really enjoyed, because this is kind of more practical examples, things that are currently happening or have happened or will happen probably, and I really like this part. And this is why, if this was the entire book, I mean, I probably wouldn't have given it a 5-star because I needed this knowledge before reading this, but this was like a 5-star, this was like a 3-star, so I landed on a 4, but still really like enjoyable read. Also really like the writing, it felt very like easy to get to and kind of like approachable, and I definitely recommend this to people who are not super familiar with the topic and are just wanting to learn more about it like I am, because I've seen from Goodreads reviews that people who do know a lot about this topic just found this to be like nothing new or like adding anything, but I learned a lot throughout this, so I had a fun time. And now for the first time in this entire video, I can click the hide choice button instead of having to go through the list and manually like delete a book from the list, because I actually landed on a sequel instead. So let's spin. I feel like we should have like some music for this or something. Okay, this is fun. I've been in such a romance mood lately, so this is perfect. The American Roommate Experiment by Elena Armas is a spin-off novel to the Spanish Love Deception, which I read last year or the year before, I can't remember. And I didn't love that, but I did enjoy it. And this one sounds right up my alley. I have been really excited to read this, but I just been needing the final push, especially since I talked to you earlier about reading like ebooks still. I got a galley of The Long Game by Elena Armas, which is her release for this year. It just came out. I didn't like that. So I've been very nervous to get around to this one since then. But this is just the push I need, because I feel like if I'm not going to read it now, I'm just going to keep pushing it off. This is dual POV. I love when our romance is dual POV, so yes. Hi, so welcome to another update. I finished The American Roommate Experiment by Elena Armas, and I give it 3 stars. It didn't work for me, and I can't fully explain why, because I have no real complaints with this book. I do like the characters, I like the way their personal journeys were developed, I like the way their relationship was developed. They had a lot of cute moments together. I just didn't feel it, you know. I had no connection to this book and I wasn't like super invested in it, so I just kind of ended up feeling like meh about the whole thing. So 3 stars, sadly enough, but that means we still don't have a 5-star, and I'm kind of, so no offense, getting tired of this video. So I desperately want a 5-star. I have installed a full reading weekend in which I'm going to try to read as much as I can, and hopefully we'll get a 5-star out of this damn wheel. So adding 2 books to the list, because I haul 2 books. So we have Pride and Prejudice in the City or Pride and Prejudice in Pittsburgh, depends on edition. This one is the UK edition, but I put Pride and Prejudice in Pittsburgh on the wheel. And we have the Anthropocene reviewed by John Green, and yeah, I'm really excited to read both of these. So maybe they'll show up when I spin, maybe not, who the fuck knows. Let's spin. Not even want to look at it. I'm looking at it. I'm so scared. I'm sorry. I am so sorry, but you don't know how desperately I've been meaning to read this book this entire year. So we have Tweet Cute by Emma Lord, which is another one of my top of TBR list. I'm making my way through it with this video, thank God, because I've been so behind on it. And yeah, this has been one of the ones on the list that I've been most excited to read, because something about it just screams 5 stars to me, but I just have never gotten around to it. Also maybe because I'm a little bit scared that I won't be, because I have no real evidence as to it's supposed to be a 5-star. I've never read Emma Lord before, so yeah, but I'm so excited. Hi, I spent the entire weekend reading. If I was filming, I was spending time wasting on filming instead of reading, and I wanted to try and read as much as possible and bring an end to this challenge. So yeah, let me update you now on everything that I read this weekend. So we started off with Tweet Cute. We talked about this already. We saw me started, which I ended up giving this 4 stars. And this was so close to 5 stars to me. Like, I recently have had a lot of 4-star books that I just have not been able to tell you why it's a 4-star, not a 5-star. I don't love it, but I also just don't necessarily have any problems with it. And this was one of those books. I really loved the setup of this book. I really loved how it worked out. I loved the Twitter battle. It was so much fun, and thought it was just like a fun way to kind of push these 2 characters together a bit more. I really liked it. I thought their personal character journeys were really interesting. They parallel each other but were very different from each other, which I thought was really interesting as well. And I adored the romance in here. I love how it just first like very much was a friendship, and then like feelings slowly started creeping in, and I really enjoyed it. I do kind of, if I have one complaint about this book, is that I would have liked to see more of them as a couple, but for the rest I don't really have any complaints about this. But it wasn't a 5-star to me. I didn't love it, you know. So yeah, it was a bit of a disappointment, but like I'm still glad. I really enjoyed it. And yeah, I did film myself spinning the wheel, so we'd have authentic reactions to that. So I'll show you that for my next turn. I deleted Tweet Cute off the wheel. I shuffled the options, so let's spin. I'm like really nervous. Why is it glitching? I don't like my glitches. Okay, I'm gonna tell you now that most likely is gonna be a 5-star, but we're gonna read it. So the wheel landed on Ugly Love by Colleen Hoover, which this is, no offense, the ugliest cover around. I hate this so much. But I bought this secondhand actually, because years ago when Colleen Hoover was first like getting big on BookTube, this is like the main book I was kept getting recommended. So when now with BookTok, Colleen Hoover is having a new resurgence, I wanted to buy this and read it and see what it was all about. The hype from back then, because I feel like now this isn't like the most hype Colleen Hoover anymore, but back then it definitely was, and it was getting adapted for like a really long time, and then it didn't eventually end up getting adapted, I think. So that's also an interesting journey. So yeah, this was a 2-star. In my reaction to like the spinner wheel, I already said that this most likely wasn't gonna be a 5-star, because Colleen Hoover has only been a 5-star for me once in recent years. Back when I read it like years ago, she got more 5 stars, but I desperately want to read these books and see if they hold up, because I doubt it. But only It Ends With Us has ever gotten a 5-star for me, so I highly doubted that this would as well. And I was right. This wasn't good. Like, I don't get it. I really don't get why this was so hyped for so long, because it's not romantic. Like, Colleen Hoover does a terrible job at developing these 2 feelings for each other. It just kind of pops up out of nowhere, and it's just like, oh yeah, they barely interact. Even the only times they almost the only times they interact with this book is them just having sex. And like, how are you supposed to develop feelings if you barely even talk to each other? And I wasn't vibing with that. I also just didn't really like her main characters. I thought Tate was a bit of a red flag. Like, at one point she literally says like, when Miles is close to me, like, Tate disappears, I just follow whatever he says or does. I'm like, that's not cute. That's concerning, you know? I don't like it. And then Miles is just an ass. I didn't like him, and he constantly keeps saying like, oh, I set these boundaries and it's your fault that you can't follow them. I'm like, bitch, you're also not following them. You can't keep backtracking. So yeah, I didn't like this. This wasn't a 1-star though, because Colleen Hoover just has this very entertaining quality to her writing, and it's very addictable and it's very readable and very addictive. So at least it got a star for that, because like an extra star for that, because I ate this up even if I didn't like it. I went for that a spin, so let's watch that. I put Ugly Love of the wheel, shuffled it, and now we're spinning it together. And I'm really hoping for something that's 5-star potential, because Ugly Love wasn't that. So oh, another great choice. So this is the final book in the Bevelstoke series by Julia Quinn. I own the entire trilogy, have not read a single one of them, but this is again on my top of TBR list. I'm very excited to give this a read. So yeah, next thing that came up for me was The Secret Diaries of Miss Miranda Cheever by Julia Quinn. And I accidentally, while making my top of TBR list last year, put the last book in that series on that list instead of the first one, which was my intention. So now I have to read the entire trilogy this year, and I have not even started it. So this was a great push. And also I've been so excited to read this. This is one book that I've been looking at the entire year that I've been in the mood to read. So I was very excited when this came up. This was generally, I thought when we spun, this was it. This was gonna be the 5-star. I just had a feeling. This was a 1-star. I hated this book so much. Oh my god. So basically, Miranda is an all-white character. I don't despise her. But my problem with her is that she just decided to be in love with this guy because he gave her a compliment once when she was 10. That's the only reason. There's nothing more to her affection to him, like absolutely nothing at all. That's the basis for her romantic feelings towards this guy. And we also just like never put in an effort to like present day timeline when they're older, like maybe add some reasons why she has feelings for him. It's still just because he was nice to her once. And then Turner is just a trash human. Like honestly, if I thought Miles was an ass and ugly love, he has nothing against Turner. Like he's a very kind soul compared to Turner. Like he's terrible. He's such a terrible human being, and he's bitter and he's mean and just plain old rude, and just the way he treats Miranda is terrible. Honestly, he's constantly toying with her emotions, and and he knows he's doing it as well. Like she has very clearly at a certain point told him like, I'm in love with you, and he's still doing it, and it just yikes. He's just a shitbag of a human in every way, shape, and form. And the fact that Julia Quinn just put in no effort to develop her feelings or his feelings at all, like from his side, there's just nothing. At least from her side, he was kind to me once, which is a stupid reason to be in love. But like on his side, there's just nothing. So, you know. Yeah, add that to it, and I thought, what the fuck are we doing? I was constantly rooting for them to like not end up together. In fact, there was kind of sort of secondary love interest in this from Miranda, and I'm like, we barely got anything from you, but I still like you more than Turner, so please. So yeah, after this, I was desperate and I needed such a good spin, which you're gonna see now. Okay, so let's hope for a really good book right now. I need good vibes. I need really, really good vibes. So send them over. Oh my little god. Yes. Yes, I was so excited to read this book. Yeah, The Anthropocene Reviews by John Green, very recently put on the list, but is already getting read, which is great. I am 50 pages into this. I just started this last night, and as soon as I finish filming this, I will finish reading this, hopefully, like at least read like a significant chunk of it. And yeah, I can already tell you I'm loving it so far. I started annotating this because I knew right from the start, just from the introduction, that I was gonna love this. I'm very excited to read this, and I just have such a good feeling about this book so far. So yeah, I think this is gonna be the last one of our video, but we'll see. Okay, I'm here to do the final update for this video because yes, this was a 5-star. I mean, I saw it coming, didn't I? I told you. Also, look at the tabbies. I won't change to like aesthetic tabs that match the cover for every book that I annotate in the future, because that'd just be impossible with the way I annotate fiction, but I get why people do it. It's very pretty. Anyway, this was a 5-star, and I don't even know how to properly review this book. I just look at how much I tapped. I just really loved every single essay that was in this. I think John Green did a great job at like tackling like a lot of different subject matter and making you understand them, and also like adding like this deep philosophical reason to every single one of these essays. Like I didn't know that an essay about Mario Kart would make me think that much about privilege, you know? but it did, and it's really well done. And I just really love the way this was written, and it just, if you need faith in humanity while also understanding how fucked we are as a species, this is a really good book to do that. So this is the stack of books that I ended up reading for this video. There was 9 of them. I read 9 books in this video before finding a 5 stars. So let's just do first a quick wrap up, and then I want to do some stats because God knows this video is already long enough, so it doesn't matter that I'm also adding stats at the end. But we have Magnolia by Jessa Hastings, which I gave 3 stars. The Golden Lily by Richelle Mead, which I gave 4 stars. Monstress Volume 2, The Blood by Marjorie and Takeda, I gave 3 stars, and that was a reread. Then the Geknipte Genen by Hetty Helsmoortel, I gave 4 stars. The American Roommate Experiment by Elena Armas, I gave 2 stars to. Tweet Cute by Emma Lord is another 4 stars. Ugly Love by Colleen Hoover, another 2 star. The Secret Diaries of Miss Miranda Cheever by Quinn, a 1 star. And the Anthropocene reviewed by John Green, the 5 star of the video, obviously. So we got every single rating represented in this. So let's do the stars. So this is a 1 star. Then we have the 2 stars. We have the 2 3 stars. And we have 3 4 stars, and of course 1 5 star, because that's the setup of this video. And then also these 3 4 stars also came off my top of TBR list. So these were books that I set out at the start of the year to read by the end of the year. So that's great. And then also another fun stat, something I also want to focus for this year is finishing series. This book helped me complete that, and this one is also pushing me, is a sequel, so it's pushing me towards that. And so is the Golden Lily. So I also read 3 books that kind of serve towards series conclusions. And then for genres, actually let's do age ranges first. So the majority for the books read for this video were adult. You have 1 2 3 4 5 6. The 6 books were adult. I am debating if I classify Magnolia as adult or new adult, but I'm putting it an adult for now. It could also be new adult, I don't remember. So 6 adult books, 1 new adult, and 2 YA. And then for genres, so the largest group is contemporary, with 4 of them being contemporary, all of them being romances, with Tweet Cute of course being YA, so like not as romance focused as some of these other ones. And Magnolia is an unconventional romance, no happily ever after. And I have 2 fantasies, 1 graphic novel, 1 regular novel, 2 non-fictions, which is probably the biggest surprise of this video because I don't typically read that much non-fiction close to each other. And lastly, 1 historical, which is also a romance. So there you go. So yeah, those are all the books that I read in this video, as well as broken down in some stats, just because I thought it was interesting to see what the wheel picked. But overall, there were a lot of books that I have been like excited to read, but it's never been like at the priority, like top of my mind priority of these books. Like none of them were. Maybe the Anthropocene reviewed, but because I just recently hauled this, I feel like this would have sat on my TBR shelf for like a couple more months before I read it. So yeah, overall I would say this was a success, even though I was getting very tired of it towards the end. But yeah, let me know in the comments what you thought of these books, if you've read them, and hopefully I'll see you around next time. Bye! Here I am again, the same old situation. Why does the goddamn have to be so